According to biography.com, Ben Carson performed his first historic surgery on the Binder twins. These twins were Siamese, meaning they're conjoined, they're not separate. And this surgery had many new procedures that made it as famous as it was. One being that they lowered the body temperature of the two twins, and another being they lowered the brain functionality of the twins, and another being they drained the twins' blood so they would lower the risk of having blood loss during the surgery. And the surgery is considered large in part by the medical community and by a lot of news corporations to be a success. In an article on biography.com that I mentioned earlier, it says, although the twins suffered brain damage during the surgery and they also had blood loss post-surgery, Carson and his team performed the first successful separation of conjoined twins at the back of the head. In another article that CNN posted, it says that in 1987, the primary neurosurgeon, which has been Carson, performed the first ever successfully separation of two conjoined twins at the back of the head. But it says in a Washington Post article, it says that, like many stories from the frontiers of medical science, that even though it's really happy at sometimes, it does have very bad parts where it has very loss and pain for the family involved in it. And although the surgery had unprecedented benefits for medical science, the end result was not good for the family, as you'll find out. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of success is a favorable or desirable outcome. So the question arises as to what was favorable or desirable for the end outcome of the surgery. Well, Dr. Mark Rogers, who was the director of pediatric intensive care at Johns Hopkins, where the surgery was performed at, he said in a Fox News article that we, meaning we, the team at Johns Hopkins, he said he would consider the surgery a success if the surgery produced two normal children. And he said on another occasion to the Washington Post that surgery is not just in separating the twins. Success is in producing two normal children once again. So according to the Washington Post, updates on the two children after the surgery were limited because the family signed an exclusivity deal with a German magazine until the boys turned 18. But thankfully there's been interviews after the surgery, and a search of the archives will let us give a more complex and clear view of post-surgery life for the Binder twins and their family. According to the Boston Globe, media accounts 2 years after the surgery says that one twin was discharged from the hospital with severe neurological damage, and he was left in a vegetative state after surgery. And another twin was very developmentally delayed. And the mother told the German magazine in an interview that the father went crazy and that he couldn't handle the twins' damage to their brains. He said that he cheated on her, he lost his job, and he became a violent alcoholic. And so he eventually divorced from his wife. And the kids, all these factors building up to the kids being institutionalized in a home for disabled children. The mother, whose name is Theresia, her brother, which is the twins' uncle, said that Patrick Binder died within the decade and that Benjamin grew up in the institutional home for disabled kids, but he still cannot speak to this day. And the mother will often visit Benjamin in the home with his new half-brothers. And a half-brother told the German magazine interview that although it's hard to communicate with him and stuff, you can tell that he's happy to see you by just the way he looks. And Dr. Don Long, who told the Washington Post in a phone interview, Dr. Long being the head of neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins at the time of the surgery, he says his job as a doctor is to make sick people well, and that when he fails to do that, regardless of why, he's failed. So he says, and I quote, "The simple answer is no, he does not think the surgery is a success." Ben Carson himself said to the Boston Globe that both twins had severe neurological problems. Their parents separated, and they were institutionalized as wards of the state, and they were never two normal children. So it ultimately comes down to what you define success to be in regards to the surgery. If you define success as giving new information to Siamese twins and furthering the boundaries of medical science, then yes, this surgery was a success. But if you consider success to be what many of the doctors at the time believed, which was producing 2 normal children, the surgery was not a success. It's best left to the words of Ben Carson himself. He said to the Associated Press in 1993 that in a technological Star Wars sort of way, the surgery was a success. But in regards to producing 2 normal children, the surgery was a failure. So it all comes down to whether you think success is or what it's not. But when you weigh the evidence and what the definition of success is, the surgery was a failure. How much time is it?
You won't cut off.
So I can
5:42.